Hello, everyone. My name is Cam. I was the captain of the Minneapolis Miniors for season one of the Metronome Draft League. PB, happy to be talking to you here.
I'm glad to have you here.
So, if you want, I can start with my whole draft philosophy for this season.
Yeah, I'd like that since we did
Um,
not have a pre-draft interview.
no, and I put a fair bit of thought into it. I don't know if I still have that post-it note, but I had on my computer, I used the little sticky notes and had a full one pulled up. Let's see if I still have it. I do, so I can walk through that. I'm not going to be pulling it up because it has some stuff for season two, but long story short, I'd recognize Sinistra immediately as a big pull. I went hospitality is going to be insane. The healing from that's going to be so good. Not to mention that it's a ghost type. So I was like, first pick was going to be Sinistra, pretty much no matter what. I went in there ready for it. And I had a couple cores behind it that I could try to build around, things that were already pretty bulky that would have not minded the healing. And I ended up going, cool. Once I get Sinistra, I'll see what other people have drafted and draft around that. Well, I was like, I think I was draft pick 11, which isn't that late, but out of 20 people, was not early enough to get Sinistra. Sinistra was gone to Papel like immediately. I think he was third or fourth pick, and it was just gone. Don't fact check me on that number, but still, it was gone before I could get there. But no one took Mudsdale. So I was like, okay, we can work with Mudsdale. That's a great Pokemon. It has the stamina boost. It's ready to go. Just because you're getting hit by, for all those of you who have not played the format, you get hit by so many moves, so many of them that just don't do a lot of damage, and more than often they're physical. It's a lot more physical moves than special moves. So having a Pokemon that is pure ground type, boosts its defense over time, is generally already tanky with good attack, kind of sets me up for success. So I ended up round one drafting Mudsdale, and that kind of locked in a lot of what the core was supposed to be. I'd already then identified I wanted a Shadow Tagmon, I wanted something that could heal it. I ended up getting two, but we'll get back to that. Someone said Flamigo. I hadn't actually thought about Flamigo at the time. I think it was Pink. Literally brought up, oh, don't let this guy get Flamigo, because this was before I'd like ever talked to Pink. And then lo and behold, no one drafted Flamigo to steal it from me. So I was like, I guess I'm taking it. And that formed a lot of my core. I knew I wanted Regenerator. I had like 15 Regenerator mons picked out. I did not care which one I got. Um, so yeah, moving forward through the draft, I ended up going, yeah, there's Mudsdale. Round two, I got Poltergeist. That kind of set up a nice synergy already where my Mudsdale just couldn't die super easy. And this held true throughout the season. You'll get to see more of that as the team evolves, but that Mudsdale became very hard to kill. On top of that, just in case Poltergeist was suffering, dying too quick, because I hadn't had that much time to test going into season one, I wanted Rillaboom, so I grabbed him early enough. I think it was like my round six pick, and was ready to set up the chip healing. That way, Mudsdale was supposed to effectively never die. Once again, we'll come back to that because you'll notice on later versions of the team that some of these core shift around a little bit. I got Breloom. Breloom with Poison Heal should be really good in theory. Poison Heal is like 12% of your HP, which is twice that of Leftovers, of Rain Dish, of most healing abilities. I think it's pretty much only tied with Dry Skin. So I had now had a Pokemon that could heal on its own, a Mudsdale that could bulk and heal on its own, Poltergeist to heal one of them, Rillaboom to heal one of them. So I have a very stally core already. This is where Gothitelle comes in. Gothitelle was a pretty good pull at the time because Shadow Tag. That way I can just trap them in, find a Pokemon that's not doing a whole lot of damage, and then just absorb their hits. So drafted Gothitelle. I wanted a poison type, so I ended up drafting Salazzle. You'll never see Salazzle. I don't think it ever went to a game. Um, we had to get two below 400 Mon, so I grabbed Marini because I guess I could. I got rid of that immediately and never showed up to a game. And then finally, I think my round 10 pick was Passimian. Passimian's an interesting one. I don't hate the idea behind it. It just wouldn't work in practice. But the whole point of Passimian is the ability receiver. I can highlight it for you here. What the receiver ability does, for those of you unaware, because it's only on Passimian, is that when its partner Pokemon dies, Passimian gets their ability. So the idea was supposed to be I get Mudsdale on the field, I have it bulk up a whole bunch. And then if I can get Flamigo in with the boost, great. If Mudsdale is going to die too quick, I switch him Passimian. When Mudsdale dies, Passimian has the chance to boost. So that was kind of the core of my draft. I think I had some pretty good ideas in here, but what I didn't anticipate was that a lot of my Pokemon just didn't do quite enough damage. I had no Poison Point Mon, I had no Flame Body Mon, I had no Iron Barbs, no Rough Skin. I had a single Regenerator Rocky Helmet, which, I mean, Slowking put in work all season. But other than that, I was mostly just sitting on the field. Salazzle was one of my more damaging Mons, but the problem is it just doesn't have the HP to live with Black Sludge. So that's kind of what we were staring at. PB, you have any comments on that team?
Nothing at the moment. It's just interesting looking back at it.
Yeah, but you'll see with how my results went, and we'll pull that up too, that I was too stally. Which actually, I guess I can talk about after the second team. This second team had already switched to before I even played a game, I'm pretty sure, and that is the 10-17 team. A couple different things here. The biggest one being I dropped Salazzle for Nidoqueen. Nidoqueen ended up carrying like half of my season. I love Nidoqueen. Poison Point is so good in this format. For those of you unaware, it is just if you get hit by a contact move, you have a 30% chance to get poisoned. Nidoqueen was a generally bulkier Pokemon than Salazzle was. Had a better typing. Poison Ground's really nice for pretty much everything. I mean, no double weaknesses, no just glaring ways to kill it. And with Black Sludge, you could just sit on the field, tank hits, apply poison, which is that passive damage I said I didn't have, and then, just hang out. So Nidoqueen was a great pull, and I do not regret it a bit. After that, we had Bisharp end up joining the team. Bisharp is another great mon because of Defiant. So many people had Intimidate pivots, which I expect to carry on into season 2. Actually, in testing, I felt like people didn't use their Intimidate pivots enough. I love how it feels in testing. So yeah, Defiant's big. Bisharp was a good pull. I believe Bisharp was to replace Passimian. Yeah, let's just say it was, because that's how this worked out. Uh, it was just a nice did more damage. I threw a choice band on it, so it was just supposed to be on the field. They bring out an Intimidator. Bisharp gets stronger and hits super hard. And then also I grabbed Tinkatuff instead of Marini. Tinkatuff also didn't really show up. The reason why is because we had to draft two below 400 mons, 400 base stat total, that is. Mine was Poltergeist. Sorry, it has no picture. That's just a Pokepaste problem. But Poltergeist was just so good. So there was, I think, literally 0 games it didn't show up to. I think it was the only Pokemon that went to every game, in fact. But this is where this gets interesting. So with this team, we started the Metronome Draft League, and this is where I can go to my literal week one. I think it was week 1-1 match was against Chris. Um, this PB. I don't think you were there for this game, were you?
No, I was not there.
Okay, it was really funny because Cerulege, who he had weak armor on at the time, weak armor for the record being a terrible ability for this format in my opinion, because as you get hit by those weaker moves, your defense lowers, you get weaker, and speed barely matters because you're not hitting fast enough to just one hit kill things anyway. But at the time, I believe he had weakness policy on it. I could be wrong about that. Regardless, this is where I brought Rillaboom to this match and found out very quickly that the chip heal was doing way more for them than it was for me. Chris had a team that could do a lot of damage. Porygon Z with adaptability pulled Blood Moon in this match, and I believe just blew up one of my Pokemon. I don't remember who. It may have been Mudsdale, but point is that thing was doing damage, and then was chip healing off of my grassy terrain. So I had no good reason to have my Pokemon do anything when they were just dying the whole time. Mudsdale kind of did its job. Poltergeist definitely did its job. I don't think I really got to bring in Flamigo very comfortably. I'm pretty sure it just kind of got chipped down again. Uh, but yeah, I lost to Chris, who then in the regular season, this is, pre his phenomenal run, he was not exactly known for being the best player. He brought Shedinja to this match. Um, and so this was an insane first match. Quite literally the first match I did. I lost to Chris. Let's see. I want to go back to my record. This is going to spoil how the rest of the season goes, but too bad. Yeah, I ended up doing pretty well. I went 13-6 with a 27 diff for the whole season. I'm very proud of that. Ended up being in, I believe, like second or third place going into the finals. Yeah, I was in second place going into the playoffs, which was really nice. I'm very happy with how that went. But that's why it's so funny to me that I lost to Chris week one immediately. So yeah, that was my October 17th team. I think this one has a lot of merit. I ended up keeping this team for a while. In fact, about 2 weeks. So this was like, yeah, week three or so. I ended up having a couple more changes. This may have been late week two. Which is that, yeah, as I said, Rillaboom wasn't doing it. As I had Rillaboom, it stopped coming to games because it was bad. So it's like, if I'm not bringing this thing to games and it's just taking space on my team, I may as well grab something fun because I already had kind of a strong core. Mudsdale, Nidoqueen, Slowking come to every game. Flamigo comes to almost every game, and later on ended up showing up even more. So that was already a nice team before. Poltergeist shows up to every game. So I kind of already had this, which meant the rest of my team was kind of a pick and choose based on the matchup. Breloom kept blowing up. I don't know what it was, but Breloom, while it was on my team, got one hit like every game. PB, did you ever see me use Breloom?
Actually did not.
I didn't think so. I mean, yeah, it was with me early, but I stopped bringing it again. Like, I know I was one of the two people that could abuse Poison Heal, but it wasn't worth it. It was actively worse. So, yeah, Breloom stopped showing up. Bisharp got his time in the sun. Bisharp ended on my team, so we can look at his stats in a bit. Gothitelle pivoted in and out pretty consistently on my team. So, yeah, I was happy with this. I didn't feel the need to replace Rillaboom with anything that really filled a great purpose. So I started to stare down my matchups. And I was like, I'm really good into teams that aren't really slow or really fast. So I was like, how do I beat the really slow matchup? And that's when I started paying attention to everyone else's matches. Or in this case, most specifically, Davin's, I believe. Davin has a fascinating team. Where is he? There he is. Because of Octillery. Octillery is a Pokemon I really stared down and went, wait, Moody's good. And he fought me week two. I think I'd already fought him by the time uh, that I ended up taking my Barrel, which spoilers is the Pokemon I ended up taking. This is also when I named them. I'll get back to that. But yeah, and I saw that Moody could really put in work, and all the good Moody mons were gone. But I was like, this thing could just kill me. Luckily, I ended up beating Davin pretty comfortably. You'll see this -4 diff. And this was a game I wanted to highlight. If I was smart, I would have pulled it up already. So I'm going to do it now. Spoilers for all of that. Here. So let's turn off that sound because I don't want to have to hear that right now. There was a point at which, yeah, he had this thing in. He had the funny little guy who was Clefairy, and he didn't bring Octillery. And I was like, that's just not worth it. But he also had multiple Pokemon just blow themselves up. Um, yeah, they were not doing great. Yeah, the bird. Oh, that's right. Blaziken killed Corviknight. Metagross was already dead. So I was like making good progress through his bigger, bulky Pokemon, which yeah, again, pulled out Clefairy. Clefairy was doing pretty well. You'll see I had great boosts going on over here. This match was just going really well for me. And then it pulled Imprison. PB, I'm not sure if you've talked to anyone in interviews about how bad Imprison is. Have you?
I have not yet.
So, let me be the first to talk about Imprison. Imprison is a bullshit move in Metronome, and in fact, the one that I would remove first, followed closely by Dark Void. What Imprison does is that it seals any move that any other Pokemon on the field shares with it. And because this league, every Pokemon only knows Metronome, that means every Pokemon on the enemy's team has to struggle. Your allies are fine, but so in this instance, after this Clefairy pulls Imprison, my Mudsdale and my Flamigo have to use Struggle, which does a quarter of your health to you every time you use it. I thought I was just dead here. I had all my boosts set up, and I was like, the problem is I can't stay in with them because then I just take infinite damage. Luckily, I have a good pivoting core. I have Regenerator, Slowking, and Poltergeist. I can just move stuff around constantly. Every time Poltergeist comes in, it can cancel out a struggle, so I could use a couple moves. Hopefully burn down this Clefairy. This Clefairy can't heal. Like, it doesn't have leftovers or black sludge or ingrain or anything going on. So it is feasible to get through the Clefairy. Just not gonna be easy. I worked through my pivot core. You'll see Slowking, Poltergeist, pivot into Nidoqueen to try to get it poisoned. And then this was the funny turn. Was yeah, where was it in here? Oh, I may have skipped by it. No, there it is. So I'm just gonna play this for a second. Um, I ended up getting it really low and was like, oh my gosh, I can actually win it here. I'll speed it up to fast. And then it's still just sitting on the field. So I'm healing stuff up. Flamigo takes some damage, blah blah blah. It's just a very slow game. And then that happens. Clefairy uses Supercell Slam. Supercell Slam, for those of you unaware, because it's a Gen 9 DLC 2 move, is the original jump kick. It is, I believe, 100 base power, like 90 accuracy, maybe 95. But if you miss, you take half your health and damage. Well, the Clefairy missed. And so all of a sudden, this game went from unwinnable, or at least very difficult to win. I was going to need to take a lot more damage, to, oh my gosh, I now have a really boosted Flamigo, and he only has 3 Pokemon, one of which is at a third health. So that was really good. I ended up, yeah, kind of sweeping through the rest of his team. I think he ended up getting through my, yeah, he got through my Poltergeist in the end, but yeah, I ended up cutting through him. It was a fascinating game. I don't really know how to feel about it, except for it was really funny. Yeah, he had like 2 or 3 Pokemon blow up and the Clefairy kill itself. So got a little bailed on that one, but again, then I started to stare at his team because even though I won in pretty good fashion, he had some really good mons on here. And again, I got really interested in this Octillery. So going back finally to this, I drafted Bibarel. It was the best of the 2 remaining Moody mons, I believe. And I was like, I can see if it works. Didn't really have time to do a practice match, so I just threw it into the team and went, it's supposed to find a bulky team, sit in front of it, take all the stats, and then I have the perfect pivot piece for Moody, which is Flamigo. The problem is, Barbarrel sucks. There's a couple problems. The first is that Barbarrel sucks. It just can't do anything until it's sat on the field for multiple turns. And I didn't have any way to consistently get it to, stay alive long enough. Because often, if I wanted to get Mudsdale, Nidoqueen, either of them really up and running, I needed to keep Poltergeist for them. So I couldn't spare it on Barbarrel. Effectively, this just became a conflict of interest. If Mudsdale was there, Barbarrel didn't feel good. And there's no reason not to run Mudsdale because it had my leftovers. Chip healing is so important in this format in general. So sadly, the Barrel, as much as I think it was a good choice, just didn't work out. I just didn't have the space on my team for it. But if my team was a little different, if I just didn't have Mudsdale for some reason, I think it could have done work. Anyway, kept that team for another week and a half or so. And then we started to really scheme. At this point, I'd named my Pokemon. For the record, if any of you have ever played The Binding of Isaac, these are all characters from The Binding of Isaac Repentance, which is a great game. If you have not played Binding of Isaac, you should play it. I don't care what kind of games you like, try it. PB, that goes for you too.
I've never played it. I might look into it.
You, sh- you should play it. It is a roguelike. It's just so much fun. And other people had fun names on their Pokemon, some of which I thought were funnier than others. I think Papple ended up having the funniest one. Oh, the finals aren't live yet, I'm pretty sure, but like they will be by the time this goes out. So, fun fact in the finals, am I allowed to spoil that, PB?
Yeah, you're good. It'll be uploaded in 2 days.
Oh yeah, this isn't good. This is not going up in 2 days. Papple ended up naming all of his Pokemon after people in the draft league. I was his Glamora, which I was very proud of. That thing sucks to deal with. So it's fitting. Anyway, um, yeah, I started scheming. The person I was most afraid of was the very infamous Pink. Pink had Dozo and like Dondozo and Tatsugiri, who could combine and just do some bullshit things. We actually ended up banning them mid-season, which sorry, Pink, I do still feel a little bad about that, but it was just ruining the format. He had Crysula with Gotharita. Crysula had Perish Body, which was also not banned at the time, meaning if you make contact with it, both your Pokemon get the Perish Song effect. Like both Crysula and the Pokemon that hit it. And because he had Gotharita, he could just trap you in, and then you just died to the Perish Song, and he could switch out. So that was annoying. And I was like, I need to start finding ways around this. So I started asking people, everyone who had a wheezing because of neutralizing gas, I was asking, hey, do you want to trade for anything? I was asking people who had like other good counters to it. Unawaremons, for example, I thought could be really nice. And I kept getting the answer of, no, I don't want to trade that to you because I'm also using it for Mudsdale, which is the funniest shit. I was my own undoing there. So yeah, never got a wheezing. Um, I really tried to fight for it, but I just couldn't get a wheezing going because no one wanted to give it to me, which is understandable. I mean, Mudsdale's really strong. Shutting off stamina is really nice. So many of my Pokemon, if not all of them, really want their ability. I think B Sharp's the one that cares the least, arguably. Not counting Tinkatuff because she just didn't go to games. But yeah, so that was something. Schemed for a while, ended up finding that if I talked to Pink nicely, I could get King Gambit, which that sounded good to me. King Gambit is a damage cannon. And that was the whole point. My team was slow. I was finding that I was really struggling in games where I just couldn't break through them fast enough. Like, luckily there weren't that many, which is why I did so well in the regular season. But yeah, teams that were as slow as I was, I couldn't do too much to. Basically, my best thing was just Poison Point Nidoqueen, and if they had Steel types, pretty much over because Mudsdale couldn't break through them in time. Mudsdale ended up spending a lot of this season struggling itself to death. I can actually pull up the stats on that. I love the sheet. Tell Wubs I love the sheet again. So Mudsdale throughout the entire season, he got normally killed one time. That means he was only ever killed by a move one time all season. He showed up to 18 of my 19 matches. He died to partial fainting 10 times, which, for the record, struggle, if you die to struggle recoil, we counted as a partial faint. So pretty much all of these were from either struggle or poison or burn, rocky helmet, something like that. Something that was not getting hit by a move. If that doesn't speak to Mudsdale's efficacy, I don't know what will. He also still had a positive diff, which I'm very proud of him for. Um, but be aware that the existence of Mudsdale and me trying to keep him alive is also what put Poltergeist so far in the hole. Poltergeist literally just entered the field, healed something, and left the field every turn, basically, that I needed it. There was one infamous game pretty early on. I don't remember exactly which one it was, but it was something in like this range where it I think it entered the field 12 times, which is really funny to me. In one game, it was like a 30 turn game, so like almost half the turns, Poltergeist was entering the field. And considering it can't enter and leave on the same turn, that means pretty much every turn I was switching that slot. And that's your favorite kind of game, right, PB? The really slow, grindy ones.
My absolute favorite.
It's everyone's favorite, especially mine, which is why people were afraid of my team. I was very proud of this. But yeah, again, with really slow teams, then Mudsdale couldn't do the damage and would just end up struggling and killing itself, which is, yeah, why I was able to draft King Gambit. The trade I made for it was finally Breloom. You'll see Breloom was there, and now he's a Shroomish. But that's the funny part, is that Pink said I already have Shroomish as well. I'm not willing to have two Mons that want Toxic Orb, so yeah, I ended up trading away Tinkatink or Tinkatuff. This is one of my favorite evolution lines. I was actually very sad to lose Bethany, but only so much you can do. So yeah, I traded away Bethany and Apollyon, ended up getting King Gambit and Shroomish. Shroomish never showed up to a game, and good. There was no reason for him to ever show up to a game. But King Gambit, on the other hand, even though he entered this late, he entered on the 11th. Um, where was he? Yeah, he ended up coming to 6 games and doing okay in those. I always had him enter very late. So in some of these, the reason that he doesn't have a better diff is because he just didn't enter the field in like 3 of the games. I just won the game without him. So yeah, I would not hold that against him. I love King Gambit. I think he did a great job. I'm very proud of him. Moving on. This was then the final team, which was specifically to beat Pink, was that I traded for Rune Regus. In fact, I was noticing that trapping on my end didn't really matter that much. The whole point was initially to trap weaker Pokemon that just couldn't kill Mudsdale, but then that led to the whole thing of I have a wasted slot trying to trap them, and I want that slot to be pivoting with like Slowking and Poltergeist and even Nidoqueen just to get poison point procs. There's a lot of stuff I wanted to be bringing in into the other slot, and if Gothitelle was on the field, I couldn't do that because I already had Mudsdale in one slot and then Gothitelle in the other. So finally, Gothitelle left. I think I gave this to Wee. I think he was the one that ended up giving up Rune Regus to me. Which Rune Regus, I have a lot of love for this guy. This is a fascinating set. Just to explain really quick. So Wandering Spirit is exclusive to Rune Regus, although it's very similar to Cofagrigus' Mummy, which I expect more of you will know. What it does is if you get hit by a contact move, so if Rune Regus gets hit by a move, it trades their ability for Wandering Spirit. So they have Wandering Spirit, but unlike Mummy, Apollyon gets their ability. I thought that was fascinating. That meant I could steal some really interesting things. I could steal like Poison Point, Iron Barbs, stuff like that, that they really wanted to keep. Or, most importantly, Regenerator. There were, I think, 2 games that I've done. I think only one was real. The other was just a practice match. Where, yeah, I was just able to steal their regenerator on Rune Regus and then switch it out to get the healing. Um, and the interesting part of this set is protective pads. Protective pads makes it so that when you hit someone with a contact move, it does not suffer any ill effects, which also counts for not taking Wandering Spirit back. So effectively, Rune Regus would give away Wandering Spirit and then never get it back. Now, there is a mild flaw to this that those of you who really understand the format would kind of notice, which is that most of the rest of my Pokemon really want their ability. And this was actually Runrigus' undoing. That's the only reason this didn't do even better, is because in the only real match where this happened, which was me against Bo, um, I was able to steal his regenerator, but then he ended up stealing Supreme Overlord, which brought my King Gambit down to not being good, and powered them up when I really needed King Gambit to clutch. So that's Runerigus, I think, was a great call. The whole idea was initially to steal either Shadow Tag or Perish Body from the Cursula lead, or Unaware from Dondozo. Those were all good things to do. Um, but it just didn't end up working out. I still have a lot of love for this guy. I think Runrigus on the right team could be really good, but he just needs to be with Pokemon that don't really care about losing their ability. Stuff that like you don't mind, like Defiant, I don't know, Chlorophyll, stuff that isn't that big of a deal if it goes away, but also still provides some utility. You kind of have to build around the Runrigus. Um, yeah, and so this was my final team. The idea to beat Pink with the Dozogiri and the Cursula Gotharita set was twofold. It was again one, have Runrigus, who's a ghost type, so we can switch out a Shadow Tag, and who has Wandering Spirit to either steal Shadow Tag or steal Perish Body. And then for the Dozogiri, I had Babarrel with Mirror Herb. Mirror Herb is the first time an opponent raises their stats in front of the Pokemon with the Mirror Herb, you steal that boost. So I was hoping to steal the double Omni boost from Commander. And the Moody, as we talked about, just boosts you even further. So the hope was that I could steal their stats and then just get even bigger than the Dozo, kill it with Babarrel, and then still have super boosted Babarrel. But there's another problem with this, which is that Dozo gets Unaware for some reason. Unaware is a terrifying ability for Dozo to get, because what it means is that that Pokemon ignores positive stat boosts on the enemy side and negative stat boosts on itself. Meaning, even if I boosted Babarrel, it would ignore my boosted defense and then use its boosted offense. Dozo's a stupid Pokemon, and I don't like it. But that's unrelated right now. So yeah, I had to keep Runrigus alive, get through the Cursula lead, try to bait in Dozo somehow, Mirror Herb the boosts, and use Runrigus again to steal Unaware. But then that's kind of a weird set of things to do, and even more terrifyingly, that would mean that Dozo keeps Wandering Spirit. You wanna know what the problem with that is? PB, actually, can you guess what the problem with that is?
Actually, I don't know.
So, what was the other Pokemon I said I needed for this core? It was Bibarel, right?
Yeah.
What is Bibarel's ability?
Moody.
Yeah, so if I left Wandering Spirit on the Dozo and my Bibarel hit it, I gave the Dozo Moody, which I didn't want to do. So that plan never really was going to work. I don't think I could have made it through Pink regardless. It was a cool idea. I did some fun theory crafting with it. Um, but yeah, there was no way I was making it through Pink. As a whole, this is where the team ended. I think this was by far the strongest iteration of this team. Just to give some highlights to my Pokemon, just like to point out how well they did. Mudsdale did everything I wanted it to. It was a nice, bulky Pokemon. I would always bring it in when they didn't have something super oppressive on the field. So, like if they had Ferrothorn, for example, Mudsdale would not be on the field till Ferrothorn was dead, or at least close to dead, because it can heal with leftovers pretty good. It can be healed by Poltergeist, but it needs to be on the field as long as possible. And then Flamigo needs to enter the field at some point before Mudsdale dies. Those two did their jobs so well, but Flamigo was an interesting one because any Pokemon on my team still had the ability to boost. Like I had Nidoqueen boost itself so often. I have no idea why it was Nidoqueen in particular, but she loved pulling boost moves. So I had Flamigo copy from Nidoqueen in a lot of games. One very distinct one, I had Nidoqueen pull Victory Dance, followed by some other, I think it was like Iron Defense. So even without Mudsdale on the field, I was able to have Flamigo and Nidoqueen both with like 3 times defense and plus attack. It was so nice. So yeah, Flamigo did great. Mudsdale did great. Poltergeist is one of the most broken Pokemon in the format. In fact, the Sinistra player ended up winning it all. So congrats, Papple. His team was so good, and I'll address it really quick in a second. But oh my gosh, Poltergeist, I love that thing. Um, it's terrifying. Nidoqueen was also wonderful. She was way more of a core than I expected. When I ended up drafting her as kind of just she's a fine poison point mon. Like she wasn't my number one pick, but that was taken. My number one poison point for the record at the time, I really wanted Dragalge because I didn't really have good dragon types, and that's just a nice dragon poison is such a good resistance typing. You resist so many good things and are only weak to a couple with no quad weaknesses, so yeah, big shout outs to Poison Point. Nidoqueen did so good for me. Ended up taking a surprising amount of electric moves among Mudsdale and Nidoqueen. I don't know why. It just felt like the enemy always pulled electric moves into my ground types, which I was not complaining about. Lazarus, the Slowking, taught me that Regenerator Rocky Helmet was insane, and then people caught on to that, and pretty much by the end of the season, every Regenerator Mon had Rocky Helmet, or at least a lot of the best ones, like Hydrapple did, Tangrowth did, yeah, my guy did. I know there's at least one more, but there were really good Regenerator Mons with Rocky Helmet. Actually, the other Regenerator mons usually ran Black Sludge, which I disagree with, but that's a personal thing. I think that Regenerator and Black Sludge is too much healing. There's just no point to having both. One does the job. So I liked having a poison type that could use Black Sludge and a Regenerator mon distinct that could use Rocky Helmet. King Gambit did great. I love him. He is a very fun cleaner. Just like if I need something to clutch up right at the end of the game, you send in King Gambit. If the rest of the team's dead, because this is a 6-person team, he gets like a 50% boost to all his moves, which is just really nice. And I switched the choice band onto him. So that means if he used a physical move and he was the last one alive by the time he was sent in, he was able to do 2.25 times damage on a physical move. Well, he's already a Pokemon with how much physical attack? 135. That was good. I love King Gambit so much, dude. Sorry, that was my talk up King Gambit hour. Bisharp did great. He showed up to a good couple games before I had King Gambit. Just Defiance a nice ability. He did a lot of damage with that choice band before I gave it off. Bibarel showed up to like 2 matches and didn't do great. I brought Bibarel to Wubs specifically. Wubs had a competitive Empoleon, meaning if I lowered its stats, it got Spec A boosts. So with Mirror Herb, again, the idea was put this in front of Empoleon, steal his Spec A boost when he gets it with the Mirror Herb, and then just Moody boost in front of him. That did not work as well as I wanted it to, but still. So yeah, the barrel, not the best. But the rest of it was pretty killer. Yeah, I think that's most of my season one analysis. Sorry, I did just talk for like an hour. I don't know how long we've been on call, but I love this team. I am a huge Minneapolis Meteors fan and coach. I think this was what I wanted the team to be. There were a couple things I could have worked in. I was just talking with Papel the other day, and he was bringing up how I really should have had an Intimidate pivot, and he's right. If instead of Rodriguez, I had like a good Intimidator, whether that's like Arcanine or Incin, Overquill, stuff like that, there's really good Pokemon for that, and I could have just even weakened them more, made Mudsdale more invincible. Not to mention that I could have a three-way pivot with Slowking, Intimidate, and Hospitality. So that's the thing with non-point systemed seasons is that you can just do stuff like that. Yeah, BB, if you have any questions, start hitting me with them.
Yeah, I'll start you off with this. Can you explain your playoff run?
Ugh. I can. The playoff run was unfortunate. So as I mentioned earlier, I was second going into playoffs. I can pull up my stats. Yeah,
Do you
again, I was
have
13 and
the
6. I mean, it's in standings. I can just pull up this. Is that what you're asking?
I was gonna say if you had the graphic, you could have showed that.
I don't have it ready. I would need to go find it. This will be easier for now. But yeah, I'm gonna just start by talking about some history with how my games went. There were two teams other than Pink that really I just didn't think I could make it through. Um, yeah, my 6 losses all season were that really early one to Chris, I said, which is where my Rillaboom was chip healing his Cerulege to the point where it was able to outlast me. Even that match, even though I lost it, it was so close. Is it this one? Yes. Yeah, this was it. He ended up winning with only Crobat left at 19% HP. Um, it was so close. Um, but yeah, that was where I learned that, oh, I just can't do anything like that. That's right, Mudsdale did live. I don't know who Porygon Z blew up, but point stands. Couldn't make it through that. So after that, we had a loss to Papel, which Papel ended up being the champion, so no shame there. A loss to Blab. This was right when he got his really good dry skin core really online. For those of you who don't know, dry skin is if you get hit by a fire move, or if you're in sun, you take some chip damage. But if you're in rain, you heal 12% of your HP. I know I mentioned that earlier in regards to poison heal. Or if you get hit by a water move, you heal like 25% of your HP. It is, for this format, an insanely good ability, especially because we didn't have a sun team this season. So there was just, so he could just set up his rain and run away with it. Blab had a great team. I'm gonna miss him in season two. I loved them. Oh, that's right. I also his Gudra just walled me. I almost lost like 2 games in a row to Gudra specifically because to normal and Hisuian. This is a team I really want to talk about. They were the Mien Shaos, which I just meant to click. Wee's team was so cool, mostly because of these two right here. For those of you unaware, Wobbuffet is one of the best Pokemon in this format for stall teams, because it has so much HP. Its stats are insane. I can look at them here. 190 HP is so strong, because you could just put leftovers on it. And so he had leftovers Wobbuffet that could just take hits like no other. And then he would put that next to Rocky Helmet Ferrothorn. And Rocky Helmet Ferrothorn, if you hit it with a physical move, does like effectively a quarter of your health. I don't know the exact number, but it's basically a quarter of your health and takes like nothing because it's a steel type. So unfortunately, with my team being so slow, I couldn't burn through either of these. So no matter what core I started with, this was, I think, while I had like this team maybe, it was one of these. I just didn't have the damage. So I ended up where was it? That was late. I think that was this team. I had King Gambit and everything if I'm right about that, but it's just there wasn't anything I could really do. He led with that in almost every match. I don't remember if he did in mine, but Doesn't really matter at the end of the day. Wobbuffet Ferrothorn was not something I could break through. So mad props to Wii for that. That was so cool. Then it was to Bow, which I'll get back to in a second, and then to Pink, which I talked about. So Bow, this is the Dara monsters. The Dara monsters are incredibly terrifying to fight. He ended up having a roughly even season going into it, going into the playoffs. He was 10-9, which was because his team was very offensive. He had double Darmanitan. Galarian Darmanitan's so good in this format. It has Gorilla Tactics, which is effectively a free choice band, and then he put choice band on it, which is by far the correct play. So it was doing like with Kingambit earlier, how I mentioned he could get that 1.5 times boost, and then the other one from the choice band. This is the same numbers, but on a Pokemon with 140 attack stat, meaning if Galarian Darmanitan pulls a physical move, you die, basically. That's how that Pokemon works. And normal Darmanitan's no slouch either. Another 140 attack stat with Sheer Force, which is, I don't even remember, high. It does a lot of damage. So with the two Darmanitans, that could just break through my slow core. Like no matter how much I tried to poison them or whatever, I just couldn't do anything about it. And this is where Papel was absolutely right. If I just had an Intimidate switcher, I could have maybe won this match. So I'm thinking back to that for next season. But most importantly was this damn Hydrapple. I have no idea how this Hydrapple was so good. Dragon Grass is fine. It's not the best typing. Hydrapple's stats are it's a good BST, but like I guess it's just nice and defensive. But it just did so much. Like you couldn't kill this thing. And again, if I can't break through a Pokemon, that's my lose condition. So I think I fought Bo in the last week. So I already had this full team, and there's just so little I could do about it. Like again, I had Kingambit, I had Bisharp, but even they weren't really enough damage. So I was really hoping for some good poison point procs. Um, I had Runerigus for that one, so I was able to like deal his regenerator, as I think I mentioned earlier. But like again, there was just not a good way for me to break through Bo's team. The Dora Monsters are great. I have a lot of love for this team. I was kind of hoping they'd win just because they're so funny. Um, so yeah, that was what I was staring down. And then we go into playoffs. Uh, I ended up getting a bye because I was second going into it, so I was put right here into quarterfinals C. The problem is that there was a play-in match, which was we versus Bo, and because of the way the stats worked out, we and Bo literally both beat me, and both were going to beat me again if they won. And whichever one of them won fought me in playoffs. So as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, I just have no chance. Like I just lose in quarters. But I have a better chance against Bo. And then Bo ended up winning, so I was like, okay, I really need to refine my strategy. And you know what I didn't do, PB?
What didn't you
I
do?
did not refine my strategy. I went in with a very similar game plan, and it lost pretty similarly. I think that one was actually more of a blowout than our first match. Our first match, it says -4, which it's true, it was, but he had so many Pokemon that were super low. I'm pretty sure in our second match, it was even worse. Like he just had so much left on me. But it was such a hard team for my team to break through. So that's just cheating ahead to thinking about season two really quick. That's something I've really been staring down is how do I not do this again? How do I not have a team that just sits there and then can't beat certain teams? Because if any of you watching this have played competitive Pokemon, you probably know you win games by being able to beat every team, not by being good into certain matchups. That's how you win tournaments. And this is a tournament. And we had some nice diverse team structures, which is why, yeah, having to fight Bo, I was like, well, my team isn't good into this. And having that kind of like glaring weakness, um, again, I don't regret it. I think I had a great run through this season. But yeah, sure enough, my team just couldn't do it. I couldn't break through. So yeah, that was playoffs. You have any more questions, PB?
Yeah, did your team win any of the awards at the end of the season?
Oh yeah. I made the awards, spoilers. So luckily I didn't rig them. I luckily didn't have to do anything like that because people were voting correct. Like that sounds bad. Oh, that sounds really bad. People were not voting just as memes. They were voting for like things that made sense. so I never had to exercise anything stupid. Um, and it went really well. I think we had some great winners. I know that the Crooks ended up winning the best logo, for example. I think it was the Boston Baked Beldams won best name. But then I think it was Wubbs's idea to put in Homecoming King and Queen, which is super funny as a category idea. I didn't really explain what it meant to people because I didn't care to, but I had forgotten because I knew people hated my Mudsdale or loved it. It was kind of a mixed bag, but I forgot that everyone loved the Flamigo. And so when we got to Homecoming King and Queen, it ended up being Flamigo. And ironically, the Heliolisk I lost to. So they're friends now. They may have gone to prom together. They were little friends there. Ooh, I don't have it open. I'd have to really do some digging, but I made a little image for it. You know what? Can I pause my stream? Can I do that? It's fine. I'll worry about that later. Point is, I had so much fun with that. So yeah, my Flamigo ended up winning Homecoming Queen. What's next?
From me,
Yeah, if you got anything. That's all I had to say about the awards. I just really appreciated that people took them seriously. It was a great time.
I got one more thing before we wrap this up.
Hit me.
Talk about your logo. I know you were super happy with it.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I am. So I explained this way back in the day. I would have to find that if I really want to, but yeah, when I was thinking about what I wanted my team to be, I love Meteor. I am Meteor's one of their biggest supporters. I have like Meteor merch effectively, like I have stickers of him on like a water bottle on my backpack and stuff. It's great. Like I go into work because I have a real job for the record. I go into work with a Meteor water bottle. I think that's so funny. So, anyway, I was paying a lot of attention to that and making sure that it was still good, and just in general something that I cared about and that I liked. And so I was like, okay, I'll be meteors and then something that goes with it. I ended up finding the Minneapolis Miniors, and I was like, how could I pass that up? That's way too funny. So I went with the Minneapolis Meteors, and then was looking up like what is anything about Minneapolis or Minnesota, and I ended up finding that they just did a flag competition very recently, like within the last year or two, something like that. Um, and found that one of the flags looked really cool. It's called the Mirror of the Sky flag. Let me open it. This is for all of Minnesota, for the record. Yeah, this was one of the proposed flag designs, and I was like, this is insanely good. Um, I don't remember exactly who made it, but you can check on the Wikipedia article for the Minnesota state flag. It talked about the competition, and again, I thought this is just a beautiful image. So I started to make some concept art around that. My initial logo was this one right here, which is literally just four meteors on it with the words Minneapolis Meteors. I didn't hate this. I thought it was fine. But at the end of the day, I didn't love how it looked. I felt like I could do better. And so as I kept staring at it, I went, wait a minute. Why am I putting so many of them on here and making it all crowded when I can just do this? And so I submitted this and people liked it. I was very proud of it. Yeah, the Minnesota state flag, it didn't win. It made the final round, but it is not their state flag. I think it should have won. I think it's super cool. And granted, I don't know their history and everything. I'm not from Minnesota. Um, I just really like the flag. I think it was pretty. So yeah, that's the Minneapolis Meteors. I think I've now said my piece about them. I don't really have much else to talk about with them. They were awesome. I love them. I may be considering a member of them for my next season. We'll see.
A little hint.
Little hint. You have no idea which. It could be any of the Mons I talked about today. It might not even be
Oh,
one I ended the season with. Yeah. Anything else from UPB?
I got nothing else. Anything you want to shout out before we end this?
I want to shout out the team. Just I feel like this has been so much fun. I started just as a player. I'd been pretty active in like the preseason, and so you guys had asked if I wanted to help out, and I was like, no, I don't know if I'm gonna care that much. I ended up by I think it was week 3. I started watching literally every game. I wasn't there for most of them live because they would happen like during the day, but I would like end my day by opening all the links that we'd submit, and I would just go rewatch all the matches. It was so much fun. So yeah, shout outs to all of the team, all the players. It was genuinely one of the best like online gaming experiences I've had in ages. I felt like we had a pretty good community behind it just from the get go. A lot of fun people, a lot of fun personalities. Yeah, and I want to shout out Mudsdale. He was the goat.